Hi, welcome everybody to the greatest city in the United States of America, that is Pittsburgh. As you can see, I'm recording this video live from Pittsburgh, and I thought it would make the most sense to come up here and talk more about football and the best location that I can find. And also, if you look, the best stadium in the world also exists, so there's that. Seriously though, I am here to talk about the different positions in football. So in February, I had a video and I said that the offensive line was the most underrated, underappreciated, the most important, the best position in football. However, when I said that, that wasn't a discouragement on any of the other positions. It was just, in my opinion, it is a position that I just don't think that we talk about enough. What I decided to do in this video is to record a video where I am assigning each position to one word. So one word to me that identifies each position in football. The main thing for me, for those of you that are new here, I identify positions by the closest position to the football I feel like is the most important position, because I feel like those positions have the most impact on the game. Mainly, i.e. a center touches the ball on every single offensive possession, period, full stop. If you're going to touch the ball on every single possession of a football game, you have to be the most important when it comes to your offense. So having said all of that, I have identified different groups and different names, and this doesn't mean that any position is more important than the next position. And just because I am a strong believer in the offensive line, it doesn't mean I'm taking away from other positions, but I just thought it'd be cool and kind of fun to identify every single position on a football field. So that is what I'm going to do. And I even have special teams, because another group where people often forget about. So because I have special teams, I am going to start with the special teams. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit that like button, double check and make sure that you're subscribed to my channel. Leave me a comment in the comment section below, turn on those notification bells. And if you want to, I do have a membership available that you can join and get all the behind the scenes content that you didn't know that you needed. The three positions I have for special teams, I have kicker, punter, and I have a returner. So for me, when I think about a returner, the returner is going to be dynamic, because obviously if they do something in the game, it's going to look dynamic. They're usually fast. They usually are able to get your team good field position. And I know field position is another thing we don't really talk about in football, but we all know field position matters. If you don't agree with anything that I'm saying, go reference the Super Bowl, because all of these positions were very important in the Super Bowl and also in the national championship if you're a college football fan. So first position I'm doing is returner. So when I think of returners, they are dynamic. When I think about the kickers, they're the ultimate pressure position. Let me tell you why. Kickers have one chance to get it right. That is it. If you play quarterback, you have another chance to get it right. If you play running back, you have another chance. All other positions in football usually have a second chance to fix what they are doing. However, when you are a kicker, all you do, right, is air quotes, all you do is kick the ball. And so if you miss a kick, that's a lot of pressure. And yes, some people will say, well, if you don't want the pressure, don't be a kicker. It is what it is. So when I think of kickers, I think of pressure. That is the word that I assign to them. Then when I think of the punters, I believe that the punters are the insurance to a football team. Again, don't believe me, watch teams that win games. They usually have a punter that is able to kick the ball inside the 5, inside the 10, that is able to flip field position, because again, we don't really talk about field position a lot, because I don't know why we just don't really talk about that as an important stat, but we all know how important field position is in football. So for me, the whole special teams group adds so much value to football. We just don't often talk about those people. And special teams, you have to be special. It is 1/3 a part of a football team. So for me, special teams is going to go on my list. I have a lot of things that I could say about special teams, but I'm not going to go down that path any further. I'm just going to move on and talk about this defense. First, I'll just start on the defensive line. So the defensive line, the word I have for the defensive line is the anchors. If you are not anchored in your defensive line, the reality is nothing else really matters on the defense, because the defense really depends on that defensive line being able to get pressure. If you just look at your team, actually don't even look at other teams, look at your team, think about the team you support, think about the team that you watch. When they do not have a good defensive line, or when the defensive line can't get any pressure, or when the defensive line is not winning any battles, what does the rest of your defense look like? It usually doesn't look very good. So for me, it all starts on the defensive line, so they're the anchors. The edge rushers are the most disruptive group, obviously, because they get pressure on the quarterback. So for me, if your job is really to disrupt the game and to impact the game, you have to be the disruptors. The edge rushers are the guys that nobody wants to see coming. The tackles don't want to see a free edge rusher. No quarterback wants to see an edge rusher. If you're cheering for a team and you see somebody that's coming off the edge, i.e. Myles Garrett, that's not something that you want to see. So the edge rushers, 100%, are the disruptors of the football team. Linebackers, similar to the running backs, have kind of gotten the shaft lately when it comes to football. It used to be where we would be so clued in to the linebackers. We would know who the linebackers are, who they are on our team. I'm a Steelers fan. We still care about linebackers. However, the linebackers are the most versatile because they have to cover everything. Linebackers are responsible for running backs. Linebackers are responsible for tight ends. Sometimes you'll see a linebacker in coverage. Linebackers have to do so many things, and because they have to do so many things, I see them as being very versatile. So when I think of the word versatile, I think of linebackers because they really have to do everything. And did I mention they have to stop the run? Linebackers have an important job. However, without that defensive line doing their job, the linebackers don't look good. And as a Steelers fan, I am prone to people being mad at linebackers because that is just what we do. We still believe in our linebackers very heavily. So the linebackers, in my opinion, are the most versatile. Then we're going to go to the safeties. I am saving the corners because I know a lot of you get up in arms because most people played corner. So everybody has so many opinions about the corners. So I'm going to save them. The safeties are the most flexible, mainly because they are the safeties. You have to be flexible if you're going to be a safety, because what is going to happen? Is the running back going to break loose? Is a wide receiver going to break loose? Is a tight end going to break loose? Did everybody get the call? Is everybody doing what they're supposed to do? And if not, I have to come up and make a play. And by the way, I might have to come up and make a tackle in playing run defense. Like, you just never know. So to me, those safeties are the most flexible. And then let's talk about these corners. I know everybody says the corner position is the hardest position to play in football because you're moving backwards all the time. The word that I'm going to use to describe the corners is going to be competitive, competition, competing, because they're competing. They're usually undersized when it comes to looking at a wide receiver. So for me, I am going to use competitive when it comes to corners. It's not that I don't like corners. I know a lot of people think that I don't like corners. It's just I feel like they get so much shine, very similar to quarterbacks, when their position is very dependent on a lot of things going right. Anyways, let me just go ahead and move on to the offense. Obviously, I'm starting with the most important position on the offense. The most important position in all of football is the offensive line. The offensive line is the center of everything. With a bad offensive line, your team cannot move. Now, I understand everyone's going to bring out some outliers. One outlier you will say is Joe Burrow. I will give you the Joe Burrow outlier. I also want to challenge you to bring me 3 other outliers not named Joe Burrow. These centers are the commanders of the offense. They know everything. They know the coverages, they know the protections, they know every single thing there is to know about what another team is doing. And without that, you are in trouble. So having a center that can really command what he is doing and command his entire offensive line makes everything better. The commander of the offense is very similar to what I said about the anchor on the defensive line. Those two things we always say, if you are not good in the trenches, you're going to be in trouble. So if we say that, we have to actually mean that. And the other part of this too is the guards. So for me, the guards equals collision. Most of the time, guards, physical, their bodies are a little bit different. They're in there, they're grinding it out. They're doing everything that you need to do. And they are, and I just saw a bird in my shot. Everybody knows by now, anytime I see a bird in my shot, I have to stop and say there's a bird because I never get them. Anyways, the guards are going to be collision because they see a lot of impact. That is what they do. They're in there colliding. And then we have the tackles. The lovely tackles are obviously going to be the protectors because what are they protecting? They're usually protecting the biggest asset on the football team. So just because you are the biggest asset on the football team in dollars, in my opinion, doesn't necessarily mean that you are the most important. So I know a lot of people will hear me say that and they'll be like, but you said they're the biggest asset. They are the biggest asset in dollars. And in football, it is a business. You have to protect your biggest asset. That's just what it is. The next group we have are wide receivers. Our wide receivers are our playmakers, obviously. What other word would you use to describe wide receivers other than playmakers? Like, that is who they are and that is what they do. Tight ends to me equals mismatch. Tight ends are one of the biggest mismatches in football because depending on who covers them, it's always going to be a mismatch, whether it's a linebacker, a safety, whoever it is covering a tight end, it is going to be a mismatch and that is going to be a problem. So there's that. The running backs are going to be the grinders because they are grinding. They're in there doing what they need to do, whether it's between the tackles, whether it's on a screen, whether it's blocking the biggest guy coming out on a blitz. The running backs are the grinders of the football team, and I love that. And then that leaves the quarterback. To me, the quarterback are the balancers. They just create the balance. I am not a fan of overpaying quarterbacks. I think we talk about quarterbacks way too much. That's my personal opinion. But they are the balance of the offense. They can make things better. They can do things that makes the team seem like a better team than it actually is. So it's not to discredit the quarterbacks, because every single position in football is just as important as the next position. But I have my favorites, and that's just how I see it. So these are the words that I would assign to every single position in football. And the reason I have identified it this way is because this way makes sense to me. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Which one do you agree with? Which ones do you disagree with? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. As always, I'll see you in my next video.